DW Africa Link.
Malawi's upcoming general elections are not just another event. They are set to make history. For the first time, several presidential candidates have picked women as their running mates. Now, this is a significant shift in a country where women have traditionally been overlooked in top politics. It's a win for gender inclusion, but it's also sparking debate. So is this real progress or just political optics? And what does it mean for women's leadership across the region? That's what's coming up. I am Eddie Micah Jr., and you are welcome to Africa Link, the podcast connecting you to the stories that matter.
Africa Link, every weekday here on DW.
Malawian politics has long been male-dominated. Women have been sidelined in decision-making, despite making up the majority of the population. In the 2019 elections, for example, women won just 23% of parliamentary seats, a figure that underscores the gender disparity in the country's political representation. Now, this imbalance is a clear sign that the push for gender balance still has a long way to go in the country. However, this year, and for the first time ever, 4 top presidential candidates have picked female running mates. And in a twist, Joyce Banda, the only female presidential candidate, chose a male running mate, Kumbo Kachali. Now, that's how to flip the usual script and a big moment for gender representation in Malawian politics. Let's get more from political analyst Sainala Kalebe and DW correspondent in Malawi, Miriam Kaliza. Hello, ladies. Welcome to Africa Link. Sainala, is it such a big deal that Malawi has more women running mates in the next elections?
Thank you very much, Eddie, for having me on the show. There are so many ways of looking at this, but first of all, I think we could say that parties and independent candidates who are running for the presidency have become somehow responsive to calls that women should be included in decision-making. Because we have had a lot of campaigns in Malawi. A form of 50-50 campaign has been running by civil society organizations, pushing for 50% representation of women on the basis that Malawi has over 50% of women in the population. So it is only fair to have women in political leadership decision-making positions. On the other hand, we can also look at this as something that does not really signify much, because women are actually not a majority of presidential candidates, but they are running mates. And most of the parties that have fielded women for these 2025 elections are smaller parties, which generally, looking at the trends, we should not expect them to have a huge following, except maybe for the Democratic Progressive Party, which has also fielded a woman candidate. Looking at these political parties, which I'm terming as the smaller political parties, their chances of being in power would likely be through post-election coalitions, depending on the legislative strength that they get during the elections. So in the final analysis, these running mates will find themselves bargaining once more to get into power once the elections are over and the post-election coalitions are being figured out.
It's interesting what you're saying, because on the one hand, it seems quite historic that multiple presidential candidates have chosen women as their running mates. But on the other hand, you don't see this as much of a big impact. Is that what I'm getting from you, Saidala?
That is very correct, yes. The impact, not that significant as what we would expect to have.
But should we still celebrate it as a step in the right direction, or you think this is just, for show?
No, I think we should celebrate this as a step in the right direction. We should remember that women socially in Malawi have been on the back of political activity. They have, just like in many patriarchal societies, been in the background of politics. So if women are coming forward and accepting to run as running mates, then it is something that we should celebrate. Maybe what we should be thinking about now is how these women will create impact or will build their strength as candidates, as individuals, and eventually create impact. So yes, we are making some good progress. Looking at the political parties themselves, is this a question of them being strategic? Not very likely. If we look at voters in Malawi, they would not likely go for the gender ticket alone. We had a female president in the 2024 elections running as an incumbent, and she was not successful in that election. And from the research that was done by Afrobarometer, that was the time when most of the respondents in that national survey, which is the Afrobarometer survey, were not very welcoming to female candidates as leading the country. So when a question was asked on whether they would prefer male or female leadership, that was the time when we got the least favorable response for women candidates. So I think for political parties, it's not really something that would say they're being strategic at this point.
Right. It is also quite interesting what you just said, because I want to get a sense from your research and analysis. Is Malawi becoming more and more open-minded to women in politics, even women becoming presidents in the near future, or is it still, in your opinion, something quite distant?
Thank you very much, Eddie. Malawi is becoming open if political parties are fielding women. But then when we look at the overall economic environment in Malawi, there are pressing challenges that people are worried about. Looking at the recent Afrobarometer survey as well, I refer to Afrobarometer a lot, the 2025 survey, people are worried about food shortage, about farming, they are not harvesting enough crops, increased cost of living, corruption. So these are the biggest pressing issues that they have. And I don't think they would be swayed by the gender ticket alone, unless maybe for parties that combine that gender ticket with the other pressing issues that are there. And then also historically in Malawi, most of the voting has been on ethnic basis, with a lot of people preferring to vote for someone from their region or from their ethnic group. And there are a lot of patronage networks as well also involved in voting. So people want to vote for their kinsmen. So yes, women are there, but the system is not completely ready for women candidates just because they are women.
Right. Thank you, Sainala. Let me come to you, Miriam. First, tell me, I mean, you've been reporting on this. You're the reason we're actually doing this, because you highlighted it to us. I want to find out what has been the public reaction to the selection of many female running mates.
Thank you very much, Eddie. To be honest, the public reaction has been mixed. On the other hand, there's growing excitement, especially among women and youth, or those who champions women's rights, or something like that. Who they are seeing this as progress. You know, Malawi is a country where political leadership has long been male-dominated, and however, there's also skepticism in some circles, particularly among traditionalists or political loyalists who are questioning the capacity or political weight of these women. If you ask me, like Sainala said, some of these women do not have influence at all. Some of the women that have been picked as running mates have influence. Some of them are already MPs, MPs since it got to so dissolved. Among the women, we also have a former Malawi Electoral Commission chairperson, but the rest, we don't even know them. And when they were mentioned that they are running mates for a candidate A, B, we're like, who is that woman? You know? And then when you start digging about that woman, there's nothing substantial. So it's really mixed.
Right. So in a sense, you're saying they're not really being seen as serious contenders.
Well, that depends on the context. Maybe in urban centers or among progressive voices, or maybe land, they are seen as legitimate contenders somehow, especially when they have proven leadership or activism backgrounds, like I said. But in the more conservative or rural areas, there is a tendency of viewing women as the symbolic, token to tick the gender box. So while the gesture is important, the public perception varies greatly. It depends on which side of the coin you are on.
How are political parties framing these decisions in their campaigns? What are they saying? What are they saying is the reason for choosing the ladies as their running mates?
I would say most political parties are promoting these choices to be seen as a commitment to gender inclusion. If you are seen as if you are including women in your manifesto or whatever, it seems like it's modern leadership and it means you are being inclusive. So it's a commitment to gender inclusion. They are aligning their messaging with global trends of diversity and equality. However, critics are arguing that some parties, it's about optics than substance. If especially the campaign messaging doesn't really elevate the voices of these women or assign them influential roles. I'll tell you a story. One of the running mates, after being mentioned that she's a running mate, she was asked by the media, to tell people what her vision was. She had nothing to say. She doesn't know anything about the manifesto of the party. She doesn't even know the vision and things like those. So it means the optics are in play. She was just picked just to be seen by the aspirant as if he's being inclusive, but not substance.
Okay. Thank you very much, Miriam. So, Sainala, let me come to you because this is normally what happens, right? It almost seems like women have to do extra to gain the respect of members of the society. Is this just me thinking this, or is it something you have recognized when it comes to women in politics?
You are actually very correct that women have to do more than men to be recognized in politics. And in the context of Malawi, there are some factors which I would look at, the barriers or the demotivators that are actually discouraging women from coming into politics. You would look at our political culture, which sometimes can be toxic, male-dominated. We've heard stories of panga knives being used at political rallies to scare away participants at rallies, demonstrators. And this is something that would generally put off a lot of women to go into such an environment. And also the women who would contest as members of parliament would have to go through primary elections. And in these primary elections, they are very volatile. And many of the times the rules are not very, they are not very adhered to. You have a lot of informal rules that women have to be at the mercy of, the rules which are not in the book, but they would apply during the primaries.
Rules like what exactly?
Okay. The party would say that everyone is free to contest during the primary elections. Everyone who wants to is a member of the party can contest. But on the time when they are presenting their intention to contest as candidates, sometimes women are just told that, no, you cannot run, perhaps because you cannot fund your own campaign, or maybe you're not acceptable in this constituency. So we as the party have the ultimate choice to decide who is running for the primaries. So the rules say everyone is free, but ultimately not everyone is free to run during the primaries. So there are some prohibitions that can be placed on the women, and the inner campaigning also can happen against a woman candidate. She lives in town, she's not well behaved, or she does not dress properly. All those things have arisen in research that they have been used against women unfairly if you compare to men.
Why exactly is it like that, though? I mean, you're basically hammering on the challenges that women face in politics, in a traditionally male-dominated political landscape. Why is that the case, that they have to go through all these challenges to be able to make a point?
That's a good one as well. I think it goes down to our electoral system in Malawi, which is majoritarian. whereby we are voting for an individual candidate and not a list like in proportional representation systems. So the winner is only one winner for that constituency. And normally parties know where they're going to win. So there's a lot of competition in those areas where the seats are winnable seats. So party A knows I'm going to win constituencies A, B, C, D, very, very likely all the men are going to compete and they're going to use everything that they have to make sure that they get into that political office. And I think the women are an easy target to harass or to discourage from contesting in those seats. So you'll find women contesting as independents or in other constituencies where their chances are not as high of winning compared to those competitive constituencies.
How are women pushing against this? How are women fighting against this sort of stereotyping and the challenges that are being mounted up against them?
There is a strong women's movement that is pushing for the 50-50 among the civil society members in Malawi. Candidates are pushing political parties to have quotas for women, and I think quotas have worked in other countries as well. And then when we look at the manifestos, some parties have tried to respond to these calls coming from the women. If you look at the manifesto of, for instance, the Democratic Progressive Party, they have mentioned that they would align with the demands of this gender equality campaign, though not very specific about the quotas that they would like to have. And even for another party, the Malawi Congress Party, they have also mentioned that they will work towards this 50-50 gender ratio as a political party. But then it's not just about parliament. We want to see that 50-50 appearing within the party structures first, because that is where the party would show that they are committed to having this 50-50 representation. So yeah, women are pushing, and we hope that political parties will respond positively to this call from the women.
Thank you very much, Sainala. Miriam, let me come back to you on this. The media's role in all of this, highlighting the challenges women have to go through to get to these stages, encouraging women, reporting on what women are doing. What has it been like in Malawi? What's the coverage like?
Thank you very much. The media coverage, I would say it is improving over the time, but it is still uneven. You know, national outlets covering the female running mates, but not always with the depth or the seriousness afforded to their male counterparts. Sometimes the coverage would be focusing on trivial issues or more on their personalities more than on policy positions whatsoever. That's serious. However, some women-led media platforms are intentionally giving these candidates more space and voice. But then also the problem comes when the women themselves do not want to be spoken to. Sometimes they don't know what to say. Sometimes they're shy. Sometimes they feel they'll be judged for what they're going to say. And as a media person, you will be maybe forced to go for an alternative. If a woman doesn't want to say something for themselves, then what are you going to do? Yeah, it's improving, but it's still uneven. The media in Malawi can do better.
I like the way you ended, saying that the media in Malawi can do better, because, look, I face some of that challenge here, but I think it's become a very good excuse that we media personalities use, right? That, we try to get a female expert, but, it's difficult to get them because the men are apparently normally ready to speak. But then it takes us away from putting in even more effort to get more women on board. Is there something that the media can do more to be even more encouraging, to put in the work to get more women to speak up?
Indeed, I don't know how people view the media out there. Maybe we can tone down on whatever people say, maybe we don't do well, and be more welcoming, more encouraging, so that women participants can participate even more in the media. It's not a difficult thing to talk to a woman who is learned or they've got influence some way or they do the other one. It's more difficult for to talk to women who are not, outgoing, or maybe they're from the rural areas. Or, for example, this running mate who has been picked, we hear she is a maid somewhere. She doesn't know what to say. And maybe we ask the difficult questions. So maybe we should try to tone down and make them understand what we want. They should be able to speak in the languages they're comfortable with. Maybe we can help doing so.
Sainala, this is a very interesting discussion for me because at the end of the day, what does it even say about the system in place with, encouraging women to climb the ladder of political success? Because as Miriam just said, if one of the running mates seems to not be well equipped at all to be a running mate and a future vice president, who do we blame here? The woman for agreeing to be the running mate, or the one who chose that woman in the first place? Because then, as you said, it just becomes, let's tick the box and then that's it. What do you make of that, Sainala?
I think what is key is that women should be allowed to, or should be encouraged to contest in these political decision-making positions, but the women should be qualified women. That is very, very important. So it's now a question of leadership. The leadership of political parties, ensuring that they're also developing the leadership potential of women, which is not very difficult. They make the right pick of a woman and ensure that she is empowered enough to handle the demands of political office. We are going to solve this problem of increasing women representation by making sure that women are not discouraged or they are not put off from politics, but also ensuring that those that are there or have the interest join and stay and also thrive in the political space. So I think the political leaders themselves should do a lot of work on this one. It's not enough to just appoint a woman, but to give her the environment in which she can survive in politics.
Political analyst Sainala Kaleve and DW correspondent in Malawi, Miriam Kaliza. Thank you very much for your time.
Africa is changing. Don't get left behind. Tune in to Africa Link.
So are these women just being used to score political points, or is there a real momentum here? What really do they bring to the table? Well, let's hear from some of the running mates.
At first, I was scared because I didn't expect it. And also being a high office, I did not expect that. But as the time went on, I came in terms with it, and I was so excited to be one of the women that were picked as running mates. Actually, it gives hope to women. Looking at the national gender policy of Malawi, which aims to mainstreaming gender equality across all aspects, including taking part and also participating in policymaking and governance. So it gives us courage and hope that the country is embracing the policy, and also the president for the parties, the political parties, are adhering to the Malawi national gender policy.
Yes, this is a step in the right direction. In 2006, His Excellency, the late President Bingwa Mutharika, appointed me as the first Attorney General of the Republic of Malawi. And this was followed by another constitutional appointment. Chief Justice Anastasia Msosa was appointed as the first female Chief Justice in Malawi. And in 2009, the DPP, for the first time in Malawi, produced a female vice president, an achievement that reflects the party's values and progressive leadership in including women.
The voices of women serving as presidential candidates running mates in Malawi's upcoming elections, scheduled for the 16th of September 2025. Now, this is a significant step towards women finally stepping into top political roles. But the real test is turning these symbolic picks into real power. Will their voices shape policy? Will this spark lasting change? It's not just about breaking barriers, right? It's also about building a future where women lead, not just appear. So what do you think? Please share your thoughts with us on our Facebook page, DW Africa. We'd love to hear your perspectives on this significant shift in Malawian politics. Listen to us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast from. And don't forget to click follow and subscribe to our DW Africa YouTube channel so you never miss an episode. This show was co-produced and edited by Isaac Mugabe. I am Eddie Micah Jr. Thanks for listening.
DW